The 21st century is experiencing a resurgence of fascism or neo-fascism on a global scale. Today, the leaders of Russia, China, India, Argentina, Hungary, and Bulgaria align with a fascist model, displaying disdain for electoral democracy as well as political and cultural liberalism. For the first time in its 250-year history, the United States has seen the rise of an ultra-nationalist and authoritarian leader in Donald J. Trump, who embodies many of the perilous traits associated with fascism. The most influential figures in the Trump administration adhere to the principles and ideology of fascism. Trump's key appointments, including J.D. Vance as Vice President, Russell Vought as Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, Kash Patel as Director of the FBI, Stephen Miller as Deputy Chief of Staff, and Pam Bondi as Attorney General, embody this alignment. They have openly pledged their loyalty to their dear leader in the White House. As Chris Lehman observed in The Nation last month, these individuals are the fixers and fascists in the 47th president's orbit. In less than 2 weeks, Trump has taken actions that can only be described as authoritarian, moves designed to expand his personal and political power at the expense of the rule of law and American democracy. On the past 2 Friday nights, he has mirrored Richard Nixon's infamous Saturday Night Massacre of 1973, first by dismissing 18 inspectors general and then by firing 30 federal prosecutors who had spent the past 4 years working on cases related to the January 6th Capitol riot. Additionally, Trump revoked the security clearances of 51 individuals who had signed a letter suggesting that the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop could be Russian disinformation. The Department of Justice, under his direction, ordered the dismissal of 8 senior FBI executives and launched an investigation into thousands of FBI officials involved in cases tied to the January 6th uprising. These actions were carried out in direct violation of legal protections meant to shield these officials from politically motivated purges. When questioned about the abrupt removal of the inspectors general, executed without the legally required 30-day notice to Congress or valid cause, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller bluntly stated that the Trump administration does not recognize the legitimacy of those laws. There have been additional steps that have raised alarms throughout the nation and have transformed American society. Trump's call for ending birthright citizenship, which is recognized in the Constitution, would mark a major change in U.S. immigration policy. His pardon of the 1,600 rioters from January 6th never specified the criteria that were used in evaluating the various cases. Trump's threat to investigate the entire Biden crime family was unprecedented and tore a page out of the fascist playbooks of such countries as Russia and China. These threats led Biden to issue pardons to his immediate family, as well as to Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, who Trump once insinuated would be subject to the death penalty for committing treason. Although Trump's inaugural address supported a colorblind and merit-based on society, his order to federal agencies to purge the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion was an act of white supremacy that targeted civil rights protections for civil servants and government contractors. In a classic display of meanness, Trump blamed the tragic air collision over the Potomac River last week that took 67 lives on diversity hiring at the Federal Aviation Administration. In less than 2 weeks, Trump has taken sweeping measures to weaponize and politicize key government departments and agencies, particularly those overseeing the judiciary and national security. Through executive orders, he has bypassed federal law and court rulings to challenge the so-called deep state while overturning existing policies on immigration, the environment, and diversity. He imposed a federal hiring freeze, exempting only the military and positions related to immigration. Additionally, he reinstated Schedule F, a classification that strips civil servants of job protections, and introduced buyout offers to nearly the entire federal workforce of 2.3 million employees. Meanwhile, the so-called guardrails of democracy are collapsing under Trump's pressure. In recent weeks, prominent voices in the media, Paul Krugman of the New York Times, Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post, and CNN's Jim Acosta and Chuck Todd, have resigned due to institutional pressure to soften or avoid criticism of Trump. Major industries are dismantling their DEI programs in response to his intimidation. Two major networks, ABC and CBS, have settled lawsuits in Trump's favor, as their parent companies, Disney and Paramount, seek to avoid provoking his ire. Meanwhile, an alarming number of Senate Democrats are voting to confirm his cabinet nominees, regardless of their lack of qualifications or controversial backgrounds. The tech industry's response has been particularly submissive, with its key figures rushing to Mar-a-Lago to curry favor. Mark Zuckerberg, chairman of Meta, has been especially eager to appease Trump. The parallels to Germany in 1933 are unsettling. Back then, industry and media leaders believed they could manage Adolf Hitler by accommodating his demands, only to see the Weimar Republic rapidly dissolve into the police state of the Third Reich. In just 2 weeks, the Trump administration has acted with speed and force, leaving the supposed safeguards of democracy weakened and compliant. Fascism. Fascism is a populist political philosophy that exalts the nation and often race above the individual. It is associated with a centralized autocratic government and a far-right authoritarian and ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by authoritarian leader. Fascist movements emphasize extreme nationalism, militarism, and the supremacy of the dear leader and the nation over the individual.